So I finally watched my first YouTube original, and you know what? Holy shit. I was pleasantly surprised. Wayne gave me the same feeling I had when I watched Showtime's Shameless and Netflix's The End of the F***ing World. The absolute chaos that ensues in this show is what drew me in. This show did commit one crime though, and the crime that they committed is that the show is only 10 episodes long. Okay, you know what? Fine. It's my fault for being a binge watcher, but I could not help myself. I just love me a good story, and Wayne had just that. But given the show's short time span, they rightfully don't waste any time letting you know the type of show and type of guy Wayne is. At first I thought Wayne was just a psychopath, but his sense of morality is so intact that it's hard to believe that someone like that can exist in this honestly fucked up life that he was given. But before we get too deep into that, let's jump into episode 1. So the way the show starts is actually interesting. We witness Wayne riding his bike across town and stopping in front of a run-down repair shop where 3 guys are. The 3 guys instinctively try to intimidate Wayne and tell him to screw off. Not really bothered by them, Wayne stays where he is until one of the guys kicks a chunk of ice at his bike tire. Wayne then picks up a chunk of ice and throws it out the window of the garage. At first I thought he did it to scare the guys who were messing with him away, but it actually turns out to be bigger than that. But we'll learn the motive a little later. The owner of the repair shop then comes out and finds the 3 guys and Wayne standing outside. The man then asks who threw the ice through his window, and without hesitation, all 3 guys point at Wayne. He then charges at Wayne and kicks him to a mound of snow and starts hitting him. So while Wayne is getting the ever-living crap beaten out of him, the 3 other guys take this as an opportunity to stop on Wayne's bike. And just when we think Wayne has learned his lesson,
Man, what the fuck?
yeah, Wayne is determined. And with that being our first impression of Wayne, it's clear that we have an interesting ride ahead of us. In the next scene, we see Wayne on his way home until he's stopped by a guy who turns out to be his landlord. Apparently, Wayne's dad hasn't paid the rent yet, and he hasn't been answering the door when he comes by to get it. Wayne says that the reason why he can't answer the door is because he's sick, hinting that his dad is bedridden. Wayne does tell the landlord though that he'll make sure that he gets his money. And with that, their conversation ends. Once Wayne enters the house, we do see that he wasn't lying. We can actually hear their dad coughing up along in the other room. So before Wayne can finally wind down, someone else comes to his door. At first he thought it was the landlord again, but it turns out it's actually a girl selling cookies. Wayne invites her inside and they both head up into his room.
So, you like music?
Yeah, most. I mean, I like rap.
Wayne is one strange guy. But moving forward, it gets weirder as Wayne asks the girl if she has a boyfriend. Watching this whole thing go down, I was left wide-eyed the whole time. It caught me off guard how straightforward both of these characters were. And might I remind you that neither of these characters have even known each other for 5 minutes yet, and this is how fast everything has progressed. And you know what? I don't think it's a bad thing in this case. To me, it's a good way to show how blunt they are even under these circumstances. But back to the scene, Wayne asks the girl if she wants him to be her boyfriend, where without a second thought, she asks how tall he is. They even compare heights, but he ends up being tall enough. And then we learn a little more about Wayne. When asked if he has siblings, we learn that he has a brother that he hasn't seen or talked to since he left for the Marines. As for the girl, we learn that she also has brothers too, but we're not told much about them aside from them being assholes. So now with the small talk out of the way.
So you gonna be my girlfriend or whatever?
You gonna buy some cookies or whatever?
I wanna. I don't get any money.
So? Get some then.
And that he does. In the next scene, we get a feel of Wayne's school life. It's surprisingly exactly how I thought it would be. Aside from the clear signs of the school's severe lack of funds, he also appears to be the type of person people avoid.
Wayne! Where you been?
Well, at least not everyone. Aside from learning Wayne's school attendance has been near non-existent, that being he hasn't gone in 3 weeks, we see he's trying to sell his nunchucks to his friend Orlando. However, we run into an issue. The lock combination on Wayne's locker changed. He uses his handy dandy hammer that he keeps with him and breaks the lock, whereas revealed that all of his stuff had been moved out. A little on edge now, he barges into the principal's office mid-meeting and asks where his stuff is. And during the little back and forth, we see this strange power dynamic going on where people are more scared of Wayne than they are of the principal. One of the students even says,
"No disrespect, but that crazy fool will come to my house. You won't."
Why do I even bother? Got it. Get out of here.
This whole thing did make me wonder what made Wayne more angry. The fact that they moved his stuff, or the fact that he no longer had the nunchucks to sell Orlando, which would also mean that he wouldn't have the money to buy cookies from the girl who he wanted to be his girlfriend. Though we're not too deep into the show yet, Wayne seems to be a simple character with a one-track mind. And that leads me to believe that he's more concerned about not having the means to buy the cookies that he planned to buy from the girl, rather than this being about his nunchucks. But back to the scene, while Wayne is talking to the Principal Cole, we learn about his father, Wayne McCullough Sr. Yep, Wayne is named after his dad. Wayne's dad also had violent tendencies growing up, but you could probably argue that he was violent for the right reasons. I think the best way to describe Wayne's dad is that he used violence as a means to protect people he thought needed protecting. In which case, Principal Cole was one of those people back when they went to school together. As for why this matters now, the principal is noticing that Wayne's adopted the same trait as his father, and tells him that he can't run around righting people's wrongs for the rest of his life.
And I know it's easy to follow in family footsteps, but you don't have to.
What should I be then?
I don't know, man.
This is such an important thing for a lot of young people to remember. In Wayne's case, it's more severe because what he's getting into could very well get him killed. And I think Wayne understands at least that much, but honestly I don't think he cares. Whether or not he's trying is hard to tell, but as you'll see as the show progresses, stepping away from a life he's been brought up into is easier said than done. But what is the likelihood that Wayne actually does change? Well,
Wayne, we just talked about this.
I think it's safe to say that this is going to be damn near impossible. Now understandably, Wayne is kicked out of school and Orlando accompanies him on his way home. Wayne tells Orlando that without the nunchucks he doesn't have anything else to sell. He then reveals that this is all just so he can buy cookies from the girl he had met in hopes that she'll then be his girlfriend. However, Wayne does find an alternative way to get money. And that is to sell his dad's old collection of titty mags. In the next scene, we see Wayne finally visiting the girl to buy some cookies, but she only has the gross ass coconut ones. He gives her way more money than she needs and she remains good on her word.
Here's the rules. I like that romance shit, alright? I don't like flowers. I don't want a stupid Valentine on Valentine's. I don't want to hold your fat, sweaty hand all the time, and I'm never gonna cook for you unless I'm making some for myself.
We also learned that her name is Dell.
And it ain't short for nothing, so don't ask.
But it is. After a little bit of talking, they do the most romantic thing a couple can do together.
I hate chores.
I am really enjoying these little bonding scenes. Here you have two very incomplete people trying to figure out who they are and what they want to be in life. When Dell asks Wayne what he wants to be, he says that he's not sure. Dell tries to say that maybe he should consider doing what his dad did, where Wayne vaguely states that that is what got him sick in the first place. As for what Dell wants to do with her life, she doesn't give a clear answer. Instead, she just says that she's fine with anything that dissociates herself from her family to the point where no one even knows that she's related to any of them. Before we move on, we're currently 17 minutes into the show and they're doing something pretty bold for a show that's only 10 episodes long. They're creating a lot more questions than answers about who these kids are. It's not a bad thing. However, where things can go wrong is when you structure the show and don't provide those answers in a suitable amount of time. That's when you run into things like pacing issues. You don't want to create too much unsolvable conflict at once or you might risk a rushed / unsatisfying ending. Now, let's see if this show runs into this issue. Jumping back in, Wayne is kicked in the back by Dell's father, Bobby Luchetti, who's accompanied by her two brothers, Teddy and Carl. Yeah, things get intense quick and we see how hostile they are to people they don't know. Even though Wayne wasn't doing anything particularly out of the ordinary, Bobby calls him a pervert and asks what he's trying to do with his daughter. You know those people who are overprotective? Well, Dell's dad is what I like to call abusively protective. If you don't see it yet, then you'll definitely see what I mean as the show continues. But anyway, when Dell tries to calm him down and get him off Wayne, he pushes her away and continues his interrogation.
What the fuck are you doing alone with my 15-year-old daughter?
Buying some cookies.
Wayne, don't.
What?
Well, he didn't lie, but it did make the situation a lot worse. You see, Dell has a little problem. A stealing problem. In this case, she steals and sells cookies for money. Bobby forces Dell to give the money to him. Then he says something that will inevitably be added to our ever-growing question pile.
Raising a goddamn thief. Useless like your fucking mother was, huh?
Jeez. Let's add who was, where is, and what happened to Dell's mother to the list. After the rough words, Bobby grabs Dell by her hair and drags her inside while he tells his sons to take care of Wayne.
Oh, this is gonna be fucking fun. You wanna creep my sister? Creep this bitch.
We're finally back at Wayne's house, and despite everything that happened, he seems unbothered. But back at home, Wayne Sr. is being chewed out by his caretaker for shaking a bedpan at her. She then goes on to greet Wayne but sees how roughed up he is. The caretaker is tending to Wayne's wounds, where she makes the comment that it's getting hard to tell the old cuts and bruises from the new ones. But seeing how unfazed she is, it's safe to say that this isn't anything new for her. And for those keeping count, so far he's been beaten up twice and it's only the first episode. Now, I do want to play this next part because this is a defining trait for Wayne and speaks for the type of person he is.
Are you looking at my breasts?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Young man, you gotta learn to lie once in a while. I know that ain't who you are, but it just might serve you to bend the truth here and there.
Wayne gets into some violent situations, but he is no liar. If you had to classify his actions, then I would describe him as a destructive good, but that'll be more apparent later on. For now, let's talk about that beginning scene, where Wayne rode his bike downtown to the repair shop where he broke those windows. We finally learn why. So the reason why he threw the rock-sized chunks of ice at the guy's window is to get even with the guy who cheated on his dad's caretaker. She didn't ask him to. In fact, when she says that she doesn't want him doing that type of stuff for her, he excuses his actions by saying,
But he cheated on you.
Yes, and I broke up with him. That's how that works. My messes are mine.
an honest, selfless character who is prone to violence. Hell of a combo.
Are you really mad
About what?
that I broke the windows?
I am very, very mad. See what I did there? Learn to do it. I baked you a little something that's in the kitchen.
Which leads us to our next scene. We finally see Wayne's dad, and honestly, I got the wrong impression of him. I guess after I saw what Dell's dad was like, I thought Wayne's dad was somehow going to be worse. But all things considered, he seemed pretty chill. And as Wayne sits down and eats, his dad surprises him with enough money to pay for rent after winning a Pat's bet.
Hey, two like you sons of bitches, huh? Me and you?
Yeah, I was totally wrong about his character. He's actually pretty great. But as the scene progresses, a flurry of fireworks go off and begin to irritate Wayne's dad. Apparently it's from a couple of kids next door, even though it's not a major holiday or anything. This causes Wayne to quickly get up and try to stop the noise. His dad tries to keep him from leaving and says that it's fine and that he just wants someone to talk to. Wayne tries to calm back down and begins to console his father. He then finds a picture of a car with two people posing on it. Turns out the car in the photo belonged to him.
No fucking way. You bought a car?
Didn't even get it home, though. Your ma and that prick ran off with it pretty much the minute I paid for it. Swear to God.
Yep, his mother ran off with another man in his dad's car. The conversation is then cut short once the fireworks start back and Wayne angrily rushes out of the house to stop them.
It's Wayne!
He then looks into the window of a happy family, and this is where we see what Wayne might have hoped to have. Once he comes back home to tell them that there won't be any more fireworks going off, Wayne's dad is already dead. And this is where the real story begins. He takes the picture of his dad's car and heads to the garage, and fills up and wipes off an old motorbike that he had stowed away and begins his plan. Oh, and he also finds his nunchucks. Apparently they were never in his locker to begin with. He just misplaced it when he hung it on a rack in his closet that had a jacket covering it. He then goes over to his landlord's house and gives him rent, then drives off. But not before he burns his house down with his dad inside. What Wayne is willing to do to detach himself from what was keeping him there, in this case his father, is amazing. I'll repeat what I said earlier about Wayne. He has a one-track mind. And if there's something in the way of his goal that might hold him back, he'll find a way to overcome that obstacle completely. Even if that means quite literally burning it all down to move forward. Wayne's next stop is Dell's house. He lights an empty doghouse on fire to distract her dad. And while his attention is elsewhere, Wayne walks inside, passes her two brothers distracted by the television, and goes up to Dell's room.
Wayne? What the fuck?
You wanna come to Florida with me?
Why?
Get my dad's car back.
What for?
Because he wanted me to have it.
I need a bikini.
And there's our motive. This piques Dale's interest and she quickly prepares for the impromptu trip across the country to Florida. Dale's brothers, who are now suspicious of what's happening upstairs, checks to see who's in their home. Well, that's one way to get by him. But as you probably could have guessed, it's not going to be that easy. One of the brothers then rushes outside to stop Wayne, but Dale quickly takes him down. And now for the boss fight. Wayne versus Bobby Luchetti. Dale asks for Wayne not to hurt him, but honestly, he's not giving him much of a choice. They both trade blows, and it looks like Dale's dad has the upper hand. Until... So after the first scene of this show, I thought I was prepared for the type of violence that it was going to have, but what the fuck? I was not prepared for that. But you know what? It is nice to see that this show isn't afraid to get a little gory. Expect nothing less from the creators of Deadpool.
Dad ain't got no nose no more.
Del! Del, don't go, please!
Bye, Daddy.
Delilah!
After the two of them drive off, we then get a quick scene showing a group of guys hanging out outside, before an older guy calls one of them and leads them into a garage. It turns out that it's his birthday and he's been given a car. But not just any car. The car. As in the car that Wayne is on his way to Florida to get back. And with that, our journey with Wayne and Dale begins. Guys, this was just the first episode and here's everything that happened. 1. Wayne gets revenge for his dad's caretaker who got cheated on by breaking the guy's window. Consequently, he gets beat up because of it. 2. Wayne meets Dale who's selling cookies, then gets her to agree to be his girlfriend if he buys a box. 3. Wayne gets kicked out of school for knocking out a guy's teeth with a trumpet after he catches him bullying Orlando. 4. Wayne gets beat up for a second time once Bobby sees him talking to Dale. 5. Wayne's dad dies and he burns his house down with his dead dad inside it. 6. Wayne drops an old style TV on Dale's brothers' heads, then bites off her dad's nose. And lastly, number 7. Wayne and Dale go off on a cross-country trip to Florida to get his dad's car back. I don't think I've ever seen so much happen in a first episode that's only 30 minutes long. I mean seriously, I literally had to remind myself that this was only the first episode. And again, I don't think it's a bad thing when so much happens in such a short time span. I mean, all things considered, they handled it really well. And that's a challenge you face when telling a story in 10 30-minute episodes. But let's not waste too much time, we've got a lot to cover. Let's move on to episode 2. To start off, we see Wayne and Dale are still driving and taking a couple pit stops to get supplies for when it's time to rest. They then decide to finally stop and have something to eat, which ends up being a rabbit that Wayne hunted.
What the fuck? What?
In the next scene, we meet two new characters who are cops named Officer J and Sergeant Stephen Geller. We join them in a pretty awkward moment where Officer J walks in on Sergeant Geller with his hand down his pants. But don't worry, he was just checking for cancer. It's an interesting little duo we got here. One's carefree and the other one is careful. So the reason why we're with these guys is because Bobby is reporting what happened at his house. More specifically, he's saying,
long story short, he says some kid came to his house and assaulted him and his boys in their own home. And maybe kidnapped his daughter. Now for all we know, she could have ran off with the kid. But either way, she's 15, so we have a situation.
Yeah, it sounds much worse when you hear it like this. And though I understand that Wayne's intentions were good, that's exactly what happened. This was a moment where I began to wonder what this show was going to turn into. What I mean is, will Wayne be treated as an antagonist while we, the audience, see him as the protagonist? Or will the characters coming for him have a change of heart? It's nice to see that they're giving Wayne the benefit of the doubt early and actually considers the possibility that he didn't kidnap Dale. But speaking of Wayne and Dale, they're now hanging out in a diner where they both order coffee and waffles from a waitress named Tracy. Let's remember her because we'll actually see her again later on. We do learn a couple interesting facts about Wayne. He's never had waffles, nor has he ever heard of Lord of the Rings. I wanted to hide this because even though he and Dale are from the same area, they both grew up very differently. This just further shows how closed off Wayne has been from both common foods and even mainstream entertainment. We come back to the police station where Sergeant Geller is talking to Dale's Nose's dad. I'm honestly surprised a guy this aggressive went to the police in the first place. Though I suppose this does speak for how much he cares for his daughter. Even though we haven't seen him be outwardly loving towards his daughter or even his sons for that matter, at least it shows he cares enough to get the police involved. Or should I say at least try to get the police involved. I put it this way because Sergeant Geller was completely distracted the whole time and wasn't even listening. Up until the end of the meeting, he thought this was about a missing dog instead of Bobby's daughter. From Bobby's point of view, this is probably the only time I feel bad about this whole situation. You're depending on this person to help you and he was too distracted. And as for why he was so distracted, apparently Sergeant Geller was scheduling a doctor's appointment to screen for cancer. Over at the diner, Dale is trying to wrap her mind around everything that happened with Wayne in the last 24 hours. With this, she's finally learned that Wayne's dad died along with him burning his house down with his dad in it. Then we see Dale do something rather odd.
So, this car.
Yeah, Dale's a kleptomaniac. At first I thought she was strictly stealing for monetary gain like when she was selling stolen cookies. But what's the monetary gain in stealing a salt sugar? Thanks to Dale's dad, we already know that she's stolen in the past, but I didn't think it was this compulsive. For now, let's just note that Wayne does notice. Dale asks Wayne about the car that they're after, where she and we both learn that Wayne doesn't know the exact address of where it is. All the information that he has is that it's somewhere in Ocala, Florida. We then see Dale hurriedly rush to the bathroom. At first I thought she was panicking simply because Wayne didn't know exactly where he needed to go. But there's more to it than just that. She also just got her period. Realizing that the tampon dispenser in the bathroom is empty, she calls for Wayne and tells him to get tampons and sweatpants for her. Wayne agrees, then rushes across the street to a nearby store. The first two stores he goes to, he immediately leaves because he's too embarrassed. In the third, he meets a girl who works there that helps him pick what Dale needs. We then run into a character that Wayne had passed earlier on the sidewalk. Turns out the guy is the girl's boyfriend. Wayne sees him being abusive and decides to do something about it.
I'll also take that bike lock and that aluminum bat. I'd like to return this back.
There's our Wayne. By the time Wayne returns to the diner, Dale is gone and their table is occupied by other guests. And Wayne, not sure what else to do, takes a seat at another booth and decides to wait.
I don't think she's coming back, kid. More coffee?
No.
Fuck! Shit! Holy shit! Kid, fuck! Didn't that hurt?
Yes.
Well, you don't like coffee all of a sudden or something?
I haven't tasted anything worse than coffee.
But you drank 3 cups earlier. Oh, shit. You got it bad for that bitch.
That's actually really sweet. But anyway, Tracy tries to help Wayne with his little girl problem and even tries to think of places where Dale might go. But before she can really list anywhere, Wayne notices her coming out of the store. He suddenly hops up from the booth and leaves the diner to catch up with Dale, and she is pissed. We learn how long it's been since he left to go get her tampons, and it's been over an hour. Jeez, I'd be mad too. But let's see how she takes it when she learns why it took him so long.
It's weird, okay?
It's weird for you, and you can lay my brothers out, you can bite my dad's goddamn nose off, but you can't buy me some fucking tampons? Who even are you anyway? You burn your own house down? And that jacket, what kind of weirdo wears that jacket? I mean, what the fuck even is it? Shit!
You shouldn't be doing that. Stealing.
No! You don't tell me who to be. No, fuck this. Don't follow me.
Respecting Dale's wishes, Wayne goes back to their campsite where he runs into 2 guys who are looking through their things. They seem to be pretty scared with how Wayne might react, but all things considered, he's pretty calm. One of the guys compliments Wayne on his jacket, where Wayne just ends up giving it to him after remembering how Dale made fun of it before she left. And after a bit of chatting, the guys end up persuading Wayne to chase after Dale, saying that girls like that type of thing. This prompts him to head to the nearest bus station in hopes of catching Dale before she leaves town. However, there's no more gas on his bike, so he'll have to go on foot. The 2 guys then tell him the 2 possible routes that he can take. The first being the normal route that would take around 30 minutes. The second is way more risky. That would involve him cutting through a golf course, but would turn his commute into only 10 minutes. As for why it's risky is because there's a guy named Lee Murray who keeps people from using the golf course as a shortcut. There are even rumors that he killed a kid who tried. As we probably could have expected, Wayne doesn't care and he goes for it. However, Lee's waiting for him. Let's see how this goes.
I'm about to light you up, boy. You got him fucking killed.
Back with Dale, we see she's already in line at the bus station. We also run into Tracy again. Looks like she has 2 jobs, one being a waitress and another as a bus station clerk. Dale and her already don't like each other, and she even tries to avoid assisting her, but is unable to leave. Dale requests a ticket to California, where Tracy asks why she's going there, where Dale snaps back.
Why you got so many jobs? Crack habit?
That's it. It's on.
So I totally sympathize with Dell, but wow, that was uncalled for. She does a really good job of being unlikable when she wants to. I'll give her that. Back with Wayne, we see he's tied to a chair. By the way, if you hadn't guessed, that wasn't a real bullet, but a rock salt instead. Still hurts like a bitch, but lacking the major side effect of, death. So anyway, Lee Murray goes on a little rant about how there's a rumor going around how he killed someone when he really didn't. But now that we're in this situation, where does this leave us?
So here's what's up. If you say anything to anybody and something happens to me because of this, I mean, I got boys. And those motherfuckers will come to your house, your family, and then it's out of my hands.
Why is he still here?
Oh, hi, Tannis. Oh, I mean, Kira. I love seeing familiar faces. But yeah, we find out Kira is Lee's 30-year-old girlfriend. She actually wants Lee to kill Wayne, but as you can see, he's not fond of that plan and wants to just let him go instead, as long as he promises not to say anything. And of course, Kira's not really for that plan. She's worried that Wayne's gonna go back on his promise and rat them out. This would mean Lee will most likely go back to jail. Yeah, back to jail. Apparently he served time and was put under house arrest until just recently. Lee insists on giving him another chance and Kira ends up going along with it, if he plays a little game with her. Wait until you see what that is. But before that, we get a quick checkup on how Dell and Tracy are doing after their fight, which has since been broken up by a police officer. They both now seem to be calm, and Tracy asks where Dell's parents are.
I don't know. Where's your parents?
Foster kid. Always felt like a job interview, but for like love or something. 8 different families deep, I decide, fuck this. I'm gonna be the one to leave before they say go.
I'm glad she's being honest. Especially in Dell's case, she's only been assuming what people are like and what they want. But this was like the first time where she's actually listening to someone and how their life turned out. Tracy's life has also been far from easy. No, it's not like Dell's current predicament, but it doesn't make what she's experienced any less significant, nor does it invalidate how she feels.
Listen, I'm 41. I have a new job every 2 weeks and a new boyfriend every other. Just don't blow everything up before it has a chance to maybe be good.
I know that Tracy's gonna most likely be a temporary character, but I'm just glad Dell met her. She really needed to hear this from someone, but I don't think she would have gotten it if it came from anyone else. It looks like it's something called Brockton Police Community Day, and Dell's dad and brothers are here to pay Sergeant Geller a visit. Again, I don't blame him since last time he didn't listen to a word they said. But man, their aggressiveness just makes it so hard for me to hope they actually get help. We learn that Sergeant Geller doesn't have cancer, which they don't care about, but he does tell him that now he's able to dedicate all of his time to finding Bobby's daughter. Sergeant Geller asks Bobby to fill him in on the information that he might have on Wayne. He tells him a good bit of information, but he ends up getting stuck on one thing that he's told, and that's that Wayne's dad died from some type of cancer. This changes the sergeant's view of Wayne completely. He doesn't think he's dangerous, he thinks he's in pain. When Sergeant Geller proposes that maybe they should be helping Wayne, Bobby loses his temper. In doing so, he's tased by Sergeant Geller's partner, Officer J. Now, this is what I was hoping for with this show. It would turn more into a split between is Wayne good or is Wayne bad. I didn't think the cops would be on Wayne's side so quickly, so it's going to be interesting to see how they approach this whole thing, because what Wayne is doing can still be seen as a very serious crime. I think now, especially for these cops, it's going to be a battle of morals versus duty. In the next scene, we see Dell probably the most chill we've seen her thus far in the show. She and Tracy are just riding along singing rap music. As they're enjoying their drive, they come across the 2 guys Wayne had seen earlier, and the one guy wearing the jacket that Wayne had given to him. We see them being super apologetic because they think he's dead, but...
Don't try nothing funny.
But back to Kira's game, the knife game. If he loses, he dies. Kira goes first and she absolutely nails it, but before it's Wayne's turn, Dell shows up with a chainsaw. Lee tries to patronize her a little and proceeds to ask if she knows how to handle something like that. And we finally get our first flashback of Dell's life before she ran away.
I can see my goddamn breath in here. Can we put on a fire?
Why don't you learn how to cut wood and stop fucking nagging me?
And just when we think things can't get any more chaotic, Wayne says, "Hold my knife."
Jesus Christ.
So what do you guys want to do now? Want to get high or something?
Wayne and Dell then return back to the campsite to pack up their stuff. They also fill the bike back up with gas so they can use it again. As they prepare to get back on the road, Dell makes it clear that she wants to go slower with their relationship, and that she doesn't want to end up like Tracy. Wayne agrees. She then asks how much farther until Florida, where Wayne says that he has a map and also a postcard that shows which city they should be heading to. However,
Tell me you didn't fucking lose it.
yep, he lost it. And guess who has it? The landlord. Looks like Wayne was in too much of a hurry and accidentally placed the postcard in the envelope he had given the landlord before he left town. But guess who also knows the same amount of information as the cops? Bobby Lou Chetty.
So what you thinking, Sarge?
As for what Officer J is up to, he pulls up Wayne's file to show Sergeant Geller, and of course it's not good, despite the fact he's still looking to give Wayne a second chance. And for the final scene, we see Wayne doing a quick stop at a store and probably buying tampons this time. A cute gesture if you consider how they got into this mess in the first place. Dell also appears to be happy that Wayne's back, but once she enters the bathroom, we see her crying. This can and will most likely be interpreted in many different ways, but I think she's crying with mixed emotions of guilt, disgust, and a hint of happiness. Before she leaves the bathroom, we see her empty her pockets and backpack of all the things she had stolen since starting this trip a day ago. But let's quickly cover the reasons why I said that she was crying because she felt guilty, disgusted, and happy. The obvious one out of the way first is her guilt for stealing, and her finally realizing that it's getting more and more impulsive. As for where the happiness comes into play, I think it could be this because despite all the feelings that she's been facing, she did get one thing that she wanted, and that's Wayne back. After her conversation with Tracy, it's clear that she still wanted to be with Wayne, and now that they're back together, she's more determined to be a better version of herself. Though, of course, that in itself is going to be easier said than done. To kick off episode 3, Wayne and Dell are stuck outside in the rain in front of a motel. They come up with a plan to use an escort across the street to book them a room. Her name is Deborah. Wayne's a little nervous since he's never done anything like this before, but he quickly gets over it and goes over to talk to her. The conversation only lasts a couple seconds because she says that Wayne's too young. Dell then tries to talk to her and tells her exactly what they need. In this situation, Wayne and Dell are pretending to be brother and sister, and she explains to Deborah that they need a place to sleep and even pays for her help. While Deborah is getting everything figured out, Wayne notices that their faces are in the paper. Dell says that they should be good since they used her old school pictures, and granted, she does look different now. Now as for Wayne, not so much.
I once saw him hammer a number 2 pencil into a dude's hand.
He burned his dad alive. You know that, right? Set him on fire.
He once ate a frog in class, but not like biology class, in English class.
Never seen him eat a vegetable, but did see him stab a kid with a carrot.
In the following scene, we see students being interviewed and we hear a lot of rumors mixed with truth, mostly concerning his violent streaks. Again, this all paints a pretty bad picture for Wayne. But when it's finally Orlando's turn, he ends up telling them that he doesn't plan on snitching on his friend.
You do know that he burnt down his house with his dad inside, assaulted a man and his boys, bit his nose off, and kidnapped his daughter.
I did not.
Yes, hearing it all out loud does sound bad. Even after hearing all the things that Wayne has been involved in up until now, Orlando stands his ground and stays loyal to Wayne. And here's the truest line we've heard thus far.
Wayne's been dealt a bad hand, so you're gonna have to find somebody else to squeal on.
After Orlando goes to class, we get some interesting news about Principal Cole. Apparently his dog Argus died earlier today. However, he knows this isn't the first dog of his to die. It's actually his 4th in the last 2 years. His current doggy lineup goes as follows: Argus, Artemis, Amadeus, and Apricot. He thinks there's something wrong with the food or water that he's been giving them. Either that or he thinks he's cursed. But we will see how that story develops later on. Back to Wayne and Dell, we see Dell in her bikini ready to take a swim in the motel's pool. However, Wayne doesn't want to and says that they should continue their route to Florida. He also says that they shouldn't because their faces are in the paper.
Relax. It's not like we're Bonnie or Clyde or something. I'm swimming in this bikini today. You don't want to be there, I can't fucking help you. But this bikini's getting used.
In the end, since Wayne couldn't stop her from going, he joins her outside. But as for the pool, it does not look swimmable in the slightest. A boat full of teenagers then pulls into the parking lot, and we learn from a guy who goes by the name Tug that they're on a shitty motel tour all the way to their destination in Daytona. Tug ends up inviting Dell and Wayne to join them and his friends to party. Back at the school, Orlando barges in on Principal Cole in the faculty bathroom, saying that they need to help Wayne. He proceeds to tell the principal about how some guys are after Wayne and that they're posting on social media that they're going to kill him. It turns out to be Dell's brothers who made a post on Instagram literally saying that they're going to Florida to kill him. However, Principal Cole seems to be fed up.
Do you know how many times I tried to help that kid? How many times I thought, that message I just gave Wayne really hit home and now he's going to turn his life around, only to have him completely ignore me and remove some kid's teeth with his knuckles or a trumpet? I'm done, Orlando. I'm done.
I get it. It's not that he doesn't want to help Wayne or has always seen him as a lost cause. It's that he's tried to help him time and time again where Wayne simply doesn't listen. Though it does appear that Wayne's need to help people is more instinctive than anything else, that doesn't invalidate Principal Cole's attempts to help make Wayne a better person who doesn't rely on violence. But despite everything he's done to try to help, here we are.
Look, Orlando, I'm not about to take one of my 16-year-old students on a road trip. I don't know if you read the papers lately, but it's not a popular thing to do.
Orlando says that spring break is only in 2 days and that since Principal Cole doesn't have anything keeping him at home, he should help. He then tries to use him having to write a speech for a principal conference in North Carolina as an excuse. But...
Hey, North Carolina is on the way to Florida.
Look at that, geography.
Even with this being the case, he says that Wayne can take care of himself and ends the conversation there. Back with Dell and Wayne, they're contemplating on whether or not to party with Tug and his friends. Well, more so Wayne is. Dell actually wants to join them, but Wayne thinks it's too risky since their faces are all over the newspaper. Frustrated, Dell goes out to the newspaper rack and takes all of the newspapers from the motel and throws them on the bed. Now Dell has a plan of her own.
Here's what we do. We'll come up with a cover story. Pretend we're different people.
Well, you lie better than me. I can't do it.
The key with this is to tell one big fat juicy lie. Then you follow it up with the tiny little weird bullshit. Details. Stuff no one would ever make up.
Just by how Dell is breaking all of this down, it's clear that this isn't her first time doing something like this. I'm not really worried about Dell in this scenario, but Wayne, on the other hand, is gonna be interesting to watch. We already know that Wayne doesn't lie. We saw firsthand when he was getting bandaged up by his dad's caretaker how truthful he was. The caretaker even had to end up telling him that he needs to learn how to lie sooner or later. Well, it's time to see how well he does.
I'm Angelica. This is...
John. Wayne.
John Wayne.
Good start. I like this though. Wayne, the boy who can't lie, and Dell, the girl who has perfected it. As far as what they have in common, there isn't much aside from them both being disconnected from their families. There's a clear difference between them, but even so, they're attached to one another. But anyways, let's see how good of a liar Dell can be.
You know those tiny little balloons they blow up in your arteries to prevent heart attacks? Well, they sell those to doctors. 2 competing companies make them. Our parents each work for one of the companies, so they're like competitors.
We can all probably tell that something bad is going to happen, but the question is when. Back at the school, Principal Cole is talking to Orlando and his grandmother.
So I just want to make sure I'm hearing this right. You, the boy's guardian, is authorizing me, an adult male you've never met before today, who's never raised any kids in his life, to take your grandson across multiple state lines, hundreds of miles away in a shoddy tourist to find his friend who may or may not be a criminal.
How much money you guys need for food?
Orlando and Principal Cole have the strangest pairing yet, but for some reason I'm here for it. You have Orlando, the one who wants nothing but to save his friend from danger, and then you have Principal Cole, the one who wants nothing to do with Wayne after it's proven time and time again that his attempts at helping Wayne haven't gone anywhere. But back with Wayne, we can visibly see his disinterest in anything and everything that's going on around him. We knew this wasn't his scene, but I feel bad that he's feeling forced to be out here. I mean, in a way he is. Between Wayne and Dell, it's obvious that he's the most cautious, and I don't blame him for being that way. I think this is the part that sort of made me a little annoyed at Dell. She's not considering what Wayne is risking for her. In the public and law enforcement's eye, Wayne is a kidnapper who took a 15-year-old girl after assaulting her father and brothers. In all of this, Dell is the victim and Wayne is the aggressor. He's literally risking his life and possibly being arrested just for Dell to enjoy a little party. It's a really unsettling thing to think about when you're looking at the big picture, but this does prove how much Wayne does care about Dell. He doesn't want to be here but will stay as long as Dell is. But back to the scene, the kids are playing Truth or Dare and it's Dell's turn. She ironically picks Truth and is asked the craziest place she's had sex. She says it was in an ice rink on a Zamboni. Wayne, though uncomfortable, stays silent. On with Principal Cole, we see him throwing out his doghouse after the death of Argus. As he's walking back to his house, Sergeant Geller and Officer J pay him a visit to talk about his dog. Apparently they saw his case, so Sergeant Geller went looking for leads to help. He ended up pulling toxicology reports from the vet, then asked about local noise complaints. He then reveals that his dogs were poisoned by his neighbor Paul Taylor, who lives just across the street from him. How he was poisoning them was by putting prescribed antidepressants in Principal Cole's dog's water. Noticing that Wayne is sitting alone while everyone is socializing, Tug goes over to him to play Truth or Dare. Let's see how this goes.
Hey, I think we,
A couple Thanksgivings ago, I broke my brother's record player. I was asleep when he came in to give me the first beating. He's 5 years older than me, so it was pretty bad. And so every time he'd come home, he'd see that broken record player, he'd get mad all over again. But one night, I just about had it, so I got these handcuffs I found in the woods, cuffed him to his bed before he woke up, but the cuffs gave out. Anyway, he threw me down the stairs, and I'm guessing he got scared he'd kill me or something when I didn't get up because he called an ambulance. I died for like a whole 2 minutes, but I didn't know what happened because, well, I was dead, I guess.
Wow. And to all of that, all Tug can say is...
Bullshit. No fucking way that's true. It's not even scientifically possible.
Kick back, dude. It's just a game.
Yeah. Truth or Dare, not big fucking liar, Dare. He's a fucking liar.
Remember earlier how I said this wasn't going to end well? Well, it looks like things are about to start going downhill. I was originally going to skip over this next scene, but there was one thing I wanted to highlight here.
I guess I'm just asking what I should believe.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of those stories are true. I could have thrown him out of school 24 times. But I gotta tell you something, that kid has never got a chance. He got the shit end of the stick at every turn, and I can keep trying to ram life lessons down his throat, but until that kid gets one real break or a good thing happening to him, I don't know.
Honestly, Sergeant Geller is what I wish every cop was like. He's being patient and diligent rather than just rushing to arrest Wayne without considering facts he's being presented. These aren't easy decisions, but even so, it's clear that he understands that and actually wants to make sure he is doing the right thing. It is a moral gray area, and whether someone might think Sergeant Geller is right might vary, but I would be lying if I said I wanted Wayne to be arrested and brought to justice. With that being said, Sergeant Geller and Officer J begin searching for Wayne off the clock. Tug is shown preparing to fight Wayne, but before anything happens, Wayne asks Tug Truth or Dare. Tug says Dare, and Wayne gets creative.
I dare you to get that girly bike, break into one of them rooms upstairs, and jump her through the window into that pool.
Yeah, right. I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not a pussy. I'm just not a fucking idiot. Just because you're a liar doesn't mean I'm gonna do a dare that no one else in their right fucking mind would do.
And moments later... God, I love Wayne. And while that's going on, Principal Cole adopted another dog. A much bigger dog. But more on that in a second. Back with Wayne, the owner of the motel calls the cops on the group of teens. They waste absolutely no time getting there and end up rounding up all the kids. Except Wayne and Dell, of course.
You know I didn't do what I said I did. On the Zamboni, right?
Okay.
Oh, that smile. I like that we actually see that Dell cares what Wayne thinks of her. As sly as she is, she wants to be honest with Wayne. I respect it. It shows her growth from when we first saw her in episode 1. Wayne then also reveals that he wasn't fully telling the truth about his story either. Though the part about what his brother did to him was true, he reveals that there was no record player. He also says that he actually doesn't know why his brother liked hurting him so much. However, once his dad found Wayne hurt, he, as Wayne puts it, gave it to him pretty bad, and his brother left later that night and joined the Marines, according to one of his friends. One of the girls from the party points at Wayne and Dell, who then breaks into a run as the cop chases after them. Deborah is then shown leading Wayne and Dell into her room. Losing sight of them, the cop follows the blood trail from Wayne's injury that he got from jumping out of the window and into the pool. The trail ends at room number 109, but when he opens the door, there's no sign of anyone inside.
Take the cruiser around the back of the hotel. I'm on foot. Move out.
The police cars are then heard driving away with their sirens blaring, and we finally see where Wayne and Dell were hiding, inside of Deborah's bed. Principal Cole has made it back to his home with his new dog and decides to pay Paul Taylor, the guy who killed his dogs, a visit. So to backtrack a little bit to give you more information before the scene continues, Principal Cole went to a local shelter with the intention of finding the most aggressive dog he could find. It wasn't really clear why at the time, but we probably have a feeling on what's about to happen next.
You got a visitor.
As for the dog's name,
Meet Wayne.
Yep. The first dog to break his letter A naming format is named after his most vicious and troublesome pupil. Principal Cole then calls Orlando and tells him to be out front by 6 o'clock and that they're going to Florida to get Wayne. In the second to last scene, Dale is searching through her bag for their money and realizes that Deborah stole it. However, with the sound of the police sirens closing in on them, they have no time to go back and find her, and are forced to flee. And for the final scene, we see Reggie, the guy who was given Wayne's dad's car, driving around in the neighborhood with his dad. But while they're pulled over having a smoke, an elderly couple accidentally dings the back of their car, and they get even. Episode 4 is a complete 180 from how we last saw Wayne and Dell. They're staying in a nice house somewhere in the suburbs. I was so confused when I first saw this that I had to check and see if I skipped an episode. But nope, this is episode 4. As you probably could have guessed, this house doesn't belong to anyone they know. Or anyone, actually. It's a house currently on the market and furnished for open house visits. Speaking of open house visits, Jeff, the realtor of this property, just arrived with potential buyers. Wayne and Dell quickly clean up their mess and hide upstairs.
Your new life begins here, on a spacious outdoor patio, perfect for dining al fresco.
Oh, Andre, Joy's gonna play the song.
So to distract the unexpected guest long enough to sneak out of the house, Dell drops a flower pot from the second story window onto the realtor's car. Next we move on to Officer Jay and Sergeant Geller. Since they're technically on vacation, he tells Jay to take off his uniform and to put on something more casual. Their goal is to still find Wayne. Jay asks why Geller is so caught up on Wayne, and Geller says that it's because kids with a record like Wayne rarely ever get out of the system, and he wants to make sure Wayne gets a second chance. All this talk about second chances is stemming from his cancer scare where he believed that his negative testing was a second chance for him. Next scene we see Wayne and Dell out of gas and walking down their neighborhood imagining what their lives would be like if they lived in houses like these. They then come across a group of laborers waiting for a construction job. Dell tells Wayne that he should try getting picked up for a job so they can have some money. He agrees. As for Dell, she says that she has some plans of her own.
You're not gonna steal, right?
I'm not gonna goddamn steal. I was gonna do what my parents did when bills came. Sell some shit.
I love seeing this caring side of Wayne. He knows Dell has a habit of stealing, and after she got robbed by Deborah, it makes sense why he'd be worried about her falling back into her old habits. When you're desperate, you sometimes do desperate things. But as for what her plans entail, she says that she's going to sell some things, more specifically the necklace that her mother gave her.
Your mom gave you the necklace.
My mom taught me how to survive, too. Which is ironic, seeing how she's dead now.
Looks like we're slowly getting more and more information about Dell's mother. I also think this is the first time that it's said aloud that her mother is dead. I think most of us have already guessed as much, but a confirmation's always nice. But anyway, Wayne and Dell go their separate ways and it's time to get to work. Over with Dell, we see she's finally made it to a pawn shop, and she witnesses a recent widow and her daughter trying to make some money for her late husband's funeral. The clerk says none of what she's offering is worth anything, but the woman begs and asks if he can give her any sum of money for it. Dell begins to feel guilty when she hears that she's trying to bury her husband. And even after hearing how much of a tight spot she's in, the clerk goes on to say,
"Lady, this is a pawn shop. The people come in here with stuff generally aren't the things that go on fucking great for me types. It's sob stories like yours all day long, so again, no thank you."
The woman then begins to cry and her daughter wanders off then opens the door. Before she can go inside, Dell tells the girl to go back to her mom. However, she takes the opportunity to peek inside. Apparently the clerk sells fake IDs and passports. Dell uses that information as a way to blackmail him into giving the woman money for her husband's watch. It ends up working and the woman, the daughter, and Dell ends up leaving the pawn shop. Over with Wayne, we see he isn't doing so hot with neither his boss nor the workers. He quickly got on the boss's bad side when Wayne accidentally hit the front of his car with a wooden plank. As for the workers, a lot of things that Wayne is doing is done poorly, so they have to go back over what he messed up on.
He's been in there a while, right? He's got to be 3-4 beers deep by now.
I had almost forgotten about this side of the story. But we're back with Dell's brothers sitting in the truck waiting for their dad outside the bar. I can't really tell the two apart that well, but I'm pretty sure the one on the left with the blue hat is Teddy, and the one on the right with the red hat is Carl. Out of the two, Carl is the more impatient one while Teddy is the more reasonable one. Well, when it comes to their father. Carl says that if they have to wait for their dad in the truck, then they should at least be able to turn on the radio. Teddy tells him no because of what happened last time they did, which resulted in the truck's battery dying. Carl proceeds to say how it's not fair that their dad is the one relaxing and having beers while they're stuck in the truck in silence, even though it's going to be their birthdays tomorrow. Carl then proceeds to ignore Teddy's advice and decides to play one of his tapes on the radio anyway, which, yep, you guessed it, causes the battery to die. Next scene, we see that Dell followed the mother and daughter from the pawn shop, and she sees how happy they are now that they're able to properly bury her husband. We then cut to her at the house sitting in silence on the couch until Wayne comes home from work. In a panic, she hides inside of the coffee table that also doubles as a storage chest. Once she finds out it's Wayne, she comes out from hiding where she tells them that they need to go to a funeral. Interesting development, right? Up until this point, we haven't seen Dell really care for anyone aside from Wayne. So even though they weren't invited, Dell is still determined to go and even wants to buy a black dress to wear. It's weird, but Wayne doesn't talk her out of going, though he does tell her that he won't be able to go because he has to work.
I ain't never been to a funeral before.
Not even for your mom?
I know you think it's weird that I want to go to a funeral, and maybe it is, but I want to. And I don't need you to understand because maybe I don't understand either, okay?
We finally see the human side of Dell. I don't want to call it the child side because the feeling of losing a loved one doesn't change with age. Grief is just one of those things that happens to everyone in some fashion. However, when it comes to Dell's mother, it sounds like she was deprived of that feeling, and now that she has the opportunity to see how it should feel, she isn't letting the opportunity slip by, even if the funeral isn't for someone she knows. The following day, Wayne is back at work, and while he's on the ladder, he accidentally drops his hammer on the tile floor, cracking it. And of course, the other workers give him flack for it, since they're gonna be the ones that have to clean it up. So since he's so bad at construction work, he's then directed to focus on demolition instead. Wayne is then given a sledgehammer and is told to break down the wall between the parlor room and the den, and he's actually excited for this new task.
Nice birthday gift. Goddamn lamp to my head. It serves you right for draining the man's fucking car battery. You had to have your precious tunes. I fucking told you.
Dell's brothers are now stuck spending their birthday finding a new car battery. Though yeah, it is technically Carl's fault that the battery died, he does bring up a good point about their dad Bobby, and that being it does sound like he has a drinking problem. Despite that, Teddy's in denial and says that their father doesn't deserve the disrespect that Carl is giving him. And Carl says that if their dad isn't going to do anything for them, then at the very least, they can go to a diner called Flappy Jack's and get free hotcakes. At first, Teddy is against it, but he changes his mind once Carl starts throwing a fit.
Well, we're going to Flappy Jack's for free hotcakes first. It's our God-given right. We ain't getting shit. But Daddy always gets free hotcakes on his fucking birthday. All right, fine. But only because it's Daddy's tradition. Tradition.
And moving on to the next scene, we see Wayne is tearing down what he thinks is the parlor room wall. However, it turns out that he's tearing down the living room wall. Ramon, literally the only worker that doesn't mind Wayne, intervenes and says that he should be thanking Wayne rather than yelling at him because the wall had mold. As for what Dell is up to, she's in a thrift store trying on a black dress with the intention of wearing it to a funeral. She sees that the dress is $20, then suspiciously looks back at the employee who works there. Just yesterday, she promised Wayne that she wouldn't steal anymore. So now we'll see whether or not she intends to keep her word. In keeping up with the Lucetti family, we see that the twins made it to Flappy Jack's for their free birthday hotcakes.
You know, I guarantee you this is the only thing we get today. You think that cheap piece of shit is gonna get us a present or something? This again?
So the reason why I'm playing these scenes is to show how people see Dell's father, even his own family. Since he doesn't have much screen time, we need all the information that we can get on this guy. And who's better to get information from than his own children? Carl's feelings on his father are clear. It's Teddy who annoys me. He's willfully ignorant about the man and ignores all of his bad characteristics simply because that's his father. I mean, here's an example.
He's not the best gift giver, I get that, but who pays for that roof over your head, you ungrateful sack of shit? We got evicted twice last year because he did not.
Back over with Dell, we see her leaving the thrift shop while the employee is calling out to her. At first I was nervous because I honestly thought she tried to steal something, that something being the dress. However, I am happy to see that I was wrong. But he did come to speak to her about the dress. More specifically, he noticed that she didn't buy it. He said that it looked fabulous on her, and then Dell says that she thinks she'll just wear her normal clothes to the funeral.
You gonna wear this sexy ass thing to a funeral?
It's black, ain't it?
Yeah, true. Hey, just take it. It's on me.
Wayne is sitting outside reading his Conan the Barbarian comic until Ramon comes and offers some of his lunch, called mole.
Pretty cool how you found that mold.
Not mold. Mole.
Yep, it wasn't really mold. It was just some leftover mole that he had on his fingers. So asked for a while, Ramon helped him. He says that it looked like he just needed a break. We then learn a little more about Ramon, who talks about how much he misses his wife, and how her mole tastes much better than his. He then reveals that his wife isn't with him but back home in Oaxaca where the rest of his family is. Ramon then asks if Wayne has any family, where he says not anymore, but that he does have Dell now. It's crazy when you realize that it's only been a couple of days but they've gotten so close. All things considered, I'm glad to see that things are working out relatively well for both of them. As we saw how crazy things were in the last episode at the motel, it's nice to see them get a little bit of a break before they continue their journey to Florida.
Remember that time Daddy took us to go skating at AZF Arena? But he was too fucking cheap to pay for us both. So you got to go skating and I sat there watching your shoes. And then he was too bored or drunk or both. And we had to go. I never had my fucking turn skating. Man, my daddy fucked you. You should have gotten your turn. That's what I've been saying.
It took a couple beers for Teddy to see how unfair their dad is, but it finally happened. He can see things so clearly now that he comes up with a rather bold plan.
Let's kick Daddy's ass. What? Let's kick his fucking ass. All our lives he's pushing us around. Do this, Carl. Do this, Teddy. It's time he knows we got our limits. We got bigger. We're stronger. Hey, we can take him, right?
Remember how I said just a little bit earlier that it was nice that Wayne and Dell could get a little bit of a break? Well, break time's over for Wayne. He goes outside and asks where the other people are, where we learn the type of guy that the boss truly is, though it might not be much of a surprise to us. The boss has this business scheme where he picks up illegal immigrants for a job, and once that job is done, he drops them off at immigration so he doesn't have to pay them. Wayne catches up to the boss's van that he was using to transport the immigrants by stealing the boss's car. He opens the sunroof and throws his hammer through the van's dashboard window. And once the van stops, Wayne steps out of the car with a nail gun and uses it to nail the boss's hands to the van. This was fucking, oof, just looking at it. But after the boss is tightly secured, Wayne opens the back of the truck and lets them all out, and then tells them where the boss was trying to take them. Over with Dell, we see her finally taking a seat at the funeral in the dress that she was given. While we wait for the funeral to start, we then cut to her two brothers prepared to beat up their dad. But before they can go through with it, they receive a voicemail from Dale that's simply telling them happy birthday. This is enough to calm them down. Afterwards, they decide to go get the car battery. We then see that Wayne actually shows up to the funeral and sits next to Dale, who is visibly relieved that he's there. Dale grabs the necklace that her mother gave her, and Wayne immediately realizes why they're really there. He then places his arm around Dale to comfort her while they both listen to the priest as he leads the service. And if you hadn't realized yet, she's treating this as the funeral that she didn't get to have for her mother. This was a beautiful ending. It's clear that up until this point, Dale was suppressing her feelings and making sure no one could see how she felt. After seeing how her father treated her, it's no real shock to me that she's so closed off. I'm so glad we're finally witnessing the vulnerable side of Dell. She's now giving herself time to feel whatever she needs to feel rather than bottling up her emotions any longer. Whether or not this is a permanent change, I'm not so sure, but for the time being, good on her for finally giving herself the moment to properly mourn. But this actually leads to my favorite episode, Dell's backstory. Episode 5 is a flashback revolving around Dell and the type of person that she used to be a year ago. We start off with Dell having fun in a hotel pool doing underwater handstands as her mom Donna watches. This is the first time we actually see what she looks like, and she looks normal. Honestly, I expected her to have the same type of attitude as Bobby, but no. She seems caring and loving. But anyway, Dell invites Donna into the pool and tells her to try and do an underwater handstand with her.
Okay, 1, 2. I can't do it. The water gets on my nose and I start drowning. I'm not meant to be upside down.
Overall, it's a cute and normal scene, like a general mother-daughter moment. Once they're done swimming, they lounge in the pool chairs and Donna tries to see why Dell isn't dating anyone. She even tries to get her to talk to the lifeguard. Dale says that she's too busy to date anyone. Then Donna asks what she's so busy with, and this is where we learn that Dale was thinking about running for class president. However, she's skeptical about her chances of actually winning. Dale doesn't see herself as someone people would vote for.
Why wouldn't they like you? You're smart, you're kind, you're pretty, you can do a freaking underwater handstand. Well, I'm just saying, I would vote for you.
Whew, we are only 2 minutes into this episode and I absolutely love Dale's mom and how supportive she is. I also like their matching necklaces with their names on it. It makes me nervous though, and it has me wondering, where do things go wrong? And how does Donna die? Now, about Dale. This is a completely different person from who we were introduced to in episode 1. We see that she's determined and likes to read and is already even thinking about college. Keep in mind that right now she's only 14 and this is all just a year ago. The fact that she's already thinking about her future just shows how ambitious she was. But back to the scene, we learn a little more about the type of person Donna is.
Hey, handsome. 2 pinas coladas, please. Make one of them virgin for her, or half virgin. I'm not sure. And can you just add it to the tab you got going for 219?
And the name?
Graciela Campos.
Thank you, Miss Campos.
Thank you.
Yep, Donna is pretending to be one of the hotel's guests named Graciela Campos and has been charging everything to her room. The interesting thing here is that Dale isn't comfortable with Donna lying. Even when she tries to justify her lying by saying it's a victimless crime because the real Graciela can just dispute the charge, Dale says that she herself just named the victim and the crime. Donna then gets up to go to the bathroom but quickly tells Dale her cover story.
Now remember, you're the daughter of Graciela Campos. We're visiting from Philly for the medical supply convention. Just give him some details that sound like you're the kid of someone that sells doctor shit.
One can only imagine how this might backfire. Moving on to the next scene, we're with the twins who are listening to a cat meowing inside the wall.
Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Hey, scaring them out of the wall. They hate this shit. The fuck are you
You know what else makes this fucking shit, huh? Me. Cut it out.
Fucking told you, meowing pup.
What'd I tell you about hitting this household, huh?
Though there is still a hint of aggression with Bobby, he isn't as violent as he is in present day. He even has a no-hitting rule in his house for Teddy and Carl. Bobby then asks Teddy and Carl where Dale and Donna are because she isn't answering his calls or texts. And then they tell him that they went out for a girls' day.
Hey, how come we never do a boys' day?
Because I can't stand you two. Fuck.
Well, some things never change. Back with Donna, we see her taking Graciela Campos' medicine and ignoring the calls from her husband. We then cut to Dale at the pool being questioned by security about who she's staying with. This is when it's clear that Dale hasn't always been good at lying. Honestly, at this point, she's Wayne level bad.
Campos? Were we here with the medical supply convention? Well, you know, she is. My mom, she's a doctor, you know.
Before she can dig herself too deep, Donna makes it back to the pool in time to take the heat off Dale. The security guard tells Donna that someone has been charging things to Graciela Campos' room without her permission, where Donna then doubles down on her actually being Graciela Campos.
Terribly sorry, ma'am. Perhaps there was a mix-up at the register.
I'm sorry, there's no mix-up. I'm Graciela Campos, and that must be the other bathing suit that was charged to my room.
If she's a real Graciela, then prove it. You got ID on you?
I'm wearing a freaking tankini.
Oh, yeah? Well, I do.
You motherfucker!
That's Mrs. Campos.
In the end, seeing no real way out of this situation, they both end up running and going back home. Since Donna was drinking, Dale ends up driving them home, and once she parks the truck in the driveway, we see Dale is feeling bad about how she messed up the story and couldn't keep up with the lie. This is interesting to me. Her guilt doesn't stem from them stealing from Graciela Campos, but instead disappointing her mother. To make things even more interesting, here's Donna's response.
Hey, don't you ever apologize for being better than me. Ever. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Donna is aware of her toxic behavior around her child, but continues to do it anyway. But as the two make their way into the house, Bobby meets them on the porch asking them where they've been. This whole interaction is so weird to me, and you'll probably see what I mean in a second. So after Donna tells him that they were at the Courtyard Park Hotel, this is how he reacts.
What, again with the pool hopping shit, Donna? Come on.
Hey, build me a pool and I'm gonna have to drive to the west side to find one. You're in construction, for Christ's sake. Just build a hole in the ground and fill it with the hose. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Daddy.
Yeah. Get inside.
I'm gonna go wash up.
Come here. Don't be dragging our daughter into your scheming shit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been a bad girl.
Yeah. I know, but I don't want Delilah to be a bad girl.
Hey, Delilah's a good kid, okay?
All right, look. One Donna is trouble enough. The world don't need another one.
Bobby's patient. I know he's serious about him not wanting Dale to end up like Donna, but the banter between them throughout the conversation doesn't come from a place of hostility. This makes me feel even worse about how Dell ended up because she wasn't always like her present self. And we can also see Bobby worrying about his daughter. It's clear that he cares about Dell and wants nothing but the best for her. So now we're at the point where all we need to do is find out where everything changed, for Dell and Bobby. Teddy and Carl are fanning the smell of tuna into the air vents in hopes of luring out the cat. And as they all gather around the table to eat, Donna says that Dell has an announcement to make. She tells them her plan of running for class president, and Bobby, not super enthused, says that it's just a popularity contest. Though it's true, Donna stays positive and says that tomorrow they'll go to the store to get some art supplies to make campaign posters. And even though Dell's dad is aware of this being a popularity contest, he still supports her. The next day, we see Dell and her friend Natalie at school trying to get volunteers for the blood drive. This is to help one of her school's hockey players who got hurt during a game. After asking a couple people in the hallway, they then head outside to go table to table to ask. The first and only table they end up talking to appears to be like the popular girls of the school. Of course, they're all disinterested until they learn that they can skip class, and just because of that, they say that they'll be there to give blood. Once getting their commitment for the blood drive, Dell then talks about how she's running for class president and asks for their vote. Again, with nothing in it for them, they're not interested. It's only until Dell says that she'll let them copy her English homework that they show any interest. Then this happens.
Hey, didn't you and your dumpster fire of a mom get thrown out the Courtyard Park Hotel the other day? It's oxy, right? Not crack? Or is it both? You know what? I'm thinking I'll run for class president. Maybe my campaign platform could be crack is whack.
Yeah, apparently Don's reputation is known around the school. And just like that, the school day is now over and Dell is waiting outside for her mother to pick her up so then they can go campaign supply shopping. However, she never comes. It's her dad who ends up picking her up, and he is not in the best of moods. When Dell asks where her mom is, he simply says that she doesn't feel so good, and leaves it at that. While the two are out shopping, Bobby continues to complain about how expensive and unnecessary some of these things are. At first, he thinks that it's because she wants to be popular, but it turns out that she wants to make an actual change and make things better. That's why she wants to put so much effort into it so she might have a real shot at being class president. Hearing his daughter's determination, Bobby decides to buy all the things that she needs. I feel like I'm saying it a lot this episode, but it's so sad seeing how supportive and happy her family was while Donna was still alive. And now being halfway through this episode, we're bound to see the exact moment everything changed. After what turned out to be a pretty good shopping day with Dad, Dell is seen sitting at the kitchen table working on her campaign poster. The twins are still working on getting that cat out of the wall, and Donna is drinking. She seems very different from when we last saw her. When Bobby asks Dell if she can place old newspaper under the poster so the marker doesn't bleed through and mess up the table, Donna mutters how the table's already messed up. Bobby then shoots back and says that's because she doesn't know how to use a coaster. Then this happens.
Come on, Donna, you can use anything as a friggin' coaster. Here, why don't you use one of Dell's books, huh? Oh, come on now, Donna.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, it's not. Do you know how much this shit costs, huh?
God, quit being fucking cheap.
This is not about me being cheap, all right? You're a fucking embarrassment.
Teddy, don't.
No. All of her friends snickering, gossiping about your...
You know what? What are they saying?
Yeah, that was a rough one. This is the first time we actually see Bobby being fed up with Donna and being 100% serious. Sure, there was that moment when they came back from the hotel, but he definitely wasn't as angry as he is now. After the argument, he then decides to go outside and have a beer.
I didn't say nothing about you. I'm sorry.
What did I tell you about apologizing, being better than me? Stop it.
God, this show knows how to get you. Afterwards, Donna helps Dell remake her poster with her slogan being, "What the hell? Vote for Dell." Dell then begins to read her speech to her mother, which then transitions to her reading in front of her class. The speech sounds good, but don't forget that this is high school and kids can be harsh.
Dell's a crack baby! Listen, you can call me whatever you want, but I want to do good stuff, so I hope you let me help you. So, what the hell? Vote for Dell. Peace.
Dell then leaves the auditorium to have a drink of water. Luke then approaches Dell and says how he liked her speech and liked what she was doing to help Gordy. He then invites her to their next game and she seems a little bit more cheered up and even says that she'll come. Finally making it home, Dell begins to call for her mom, but there's no answer. She then checks the backyard where she runs into her dad, who appears to be depressed. Then Dell, excited to share the news with Donna about how her speech went and Shirley about Luke, asks Bobby where she is. And this is when Bobby breaks the news.
What's wrong?
You gotta swear to me. You gotta promise me that you're not gonna cry, okay? Your mother, she did something really stupid. Tell her she's not coming back. I said it was an accident. Hey, you promised me you weren't gonna cry. Don't cry.
I'm not gonna cry.
This is the moment when Dell began to suppress her feelings. At school the next day, she is completely out of her element and unable to focus. She's even closing herself off from Natalie, her best friend. When Natalie does end up catching up to Dell long enough to speak to her, she reminds her that the election is only 2 days away and she wants to help pass out flyers to get more people to vote for her. However, Dell no longer cares. After school, we get a little glimpse of how things are at home, and they are not looking good. No one is talking. The only sound you can hear is the cat meowing inside the wall. Then later on, Dell returns back to the Courtyard Park Hotel, the last place she and her mom had gone. She then jumps into the pool, then sinks to the bottom with her knees tucked into her chest and cries. This is honestly such a gorgeous yet heartbreaking shot. It is insane how quickly someone's perspective on life can change. The scene continues with Luke pulling her out of the pool and the security checking to see if she's okay. I'll let this next part play out.
My name's Julie Campos. I'm the daughter of Graciela Campos. We're here for the medical supply convention.
The convention was last week.
This is the moment where we see Dell change for good and slowly become the person who we were first introduced to. She rids herself from most of her emotions and is now able to lie and still with a straight face like her mother. We then skip to it being time for the blood drive. Dell takes a seat at an empty bed next to Betty, the girl who was making fun of her mom earlier in the episode. And if you need a reminder, here's what she said about her.
Hey, didn't you and your dumpster fire of a mom get thrown out the Courtyard Park Hotel the other day? It's Oxy, right? Not crack? Or is it both?
Anyway, Betty tries to apologize about how things ended up with her mom, but Dell, well, she's out of forgiveness. And for the ending scene, we see just how determined Dell was to find that cat in the wall.
Found the cat.
This was a much needed backstory. We knew Dell's life wasn't easy, but seeing exactly what led her to the path that we see in the very first episode now makes sense. We learned how much the death of Donna affected both Dell and her dad. Seeing how violent his wife's death made him is honestly pretty depressing. I don't think it's an excuse to treat your kids like shit, but I do think when it comes to Dell, he's protecting her the only way he knows how, and that's through aggression. I think in his head he probably blames himself for not being stern enough when it came to Donna's bad habits, so his solution to make sure Dell doesn't end up that way is to be even harsher to her. However, as we know, it merely just drove her away instead of making her a better person through tough love. Ugh, we survived through the first half. Alright, so that's actually where I'm going to end part 1 because the next one's going to be just as long. And don't worry if you're watching this the day it comes out. Part 2 is just around the corner somewhere. See you then.